Good evening, lacrosse community. My name's Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lax Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to use the skills that you get from the sport to ultimately live the life of your dreams. Today, we're joined by Christine Piazza. She's been a huge impact on the lacrosse community here in Arizona. And Christine, we'd love to start by you sharing how you got involved with lacrosse and how your family got involved with lacrosse.
So originally got involved in lacrosse in Delaware. My husband played lacrosse when he was a kid in Long Island, and he originally got our oldest son when he was in 4th grade involved. And then it kind of snowballed from there with all 4 of my kids eventually joining when we moved out here to Arizona.
Well, it seems like a real family affair starting from the East Coast and coming out here. We're so glad that you've been a part of it for a while now.
Yes.
One of my other favorite questions I love to ask is for you to share what your pinnacle lacrosse moment is, especially as you've raised a couple of kiddos that have really done some terrific things.
So for me, the pinnacle moment as a parent, because I've never was a player. I've just been a parent, ran programs, I guess, was this year when my son was accepted into college to play at the D3 level. It was his goal from his freshman year, and he made that goal come true. So, so far right now, that's been my pinnacle moment. To see that happen.
Which is absolutely amazing. Can you share a little bit more about that? How did you help AJ? Did you help him define the goal, or did he pick that on his own? And how do you go about supporting your child to live out his dreams?
He picked that goal basically from his freshman year. He knew he wanted to play in college, and he wanted to play somewhere either on the East Coast or the South, because we've lived in Delaware and Alabama. And so he wanted to go back that way. And he knew he wanted to play D3 only. He had that goal, and he wanted to play somewhere that had sports medicine. So he set out his freshman year to reach those goals, and that's what he did. And so we just kind of helped him along the way with what we could do. But the skills and everything were him. That was his doing, his hard work.
Well, it's neat that as a young person, you get to high school and you start to get a little bit more of your own identity, I think, and you start to decide what you want, and to be able to have that idea of going to play college sports. I think that's on a lot of people's mind, but not a lot of people do it. So the wherewithal, the grit that's there is unbelievable. I could imagine that as a parent, to see your child accomplish that has to be just so fulfilling, and you have to feel really proud.
Yeah, it was a lot of hard work, for us and for him, a lot of research, a lot of time, finding colleges, reaching out to coaches, going to tournaments, going to showcases, and, to see it all finally come together in the end was worth it.
Well, that's the nice little bow on top. And now it sounds like putting a lot of time for your daughters in terms of making sure that they're successful. Can you share a little bit about that with everyone?
Yeah, so our next daughter, Ashley, she's a sophomore now. She also has her goal to play college lacrosse. She's going a little different goal than AJ. She wants to play D1, and she's a goalie. So it's a little harder route for goalies, for girls goalies, because they don't take too many on the teams. It's not like AJ plays attack, so they, usually rosters carry a couple attacks. Most schools don't carry a lot of goalies, so it's harder to recruit that way. We've had to put a little bit more time into her doing that, and we did that by getting her on a team outside of Arizona that does a lot more recruiting tournaments throughout the United States. So she has traveled in the fall to 3 tournaments, and then this summer she will go to New Jersey, to Maryland, to Virginia, and Indiana with the team. So, yeah.
Well, it's definitely a highly sought after position. The goalies are so important, and well, we say goalies may have a unique personality. They're definitely some of the most well-deserving team players at the end of the day, because they do what not many people want to. And we definitely wish Ashley a lot of support and luck on her trials. Can you share a little bit about what it's like to be a parent when your daughter doesn't necessarily have the opportunities to be playing all the East Coast teams, which are traditionally the teams that players are picked from to play at the D1 level?
Yeah, so there are travel teams out here in Arizona. There is Team Arizona. There's the team I run, AZ Xtreme. There's Vortex Elite. There's Desert Heat. And obviously we were with AZ Xtreme before, and we did a lot of adrenaline tournaments, which were California. We've done Utah, Vegas, and around. And we just found that as much fun it was, there just wasn't a lot of the recruiters that we were looking for. So while there's a lot of the opportunities out here to do travel lacrosse, the teams don't do a lot of traveling outside of this region. They might go to Colorado. Some of the teams do go to the Ambassadors Cup. That is the big recruiting tournament for girls once a year in Florida. Desert Heat, I know, has been before. I think Team Arizona has been before, but not all of them do. And that's just a once a year. To get to the D1 level, it just takes sometimes a little bit more. Some of the players, if you don't do what Ashley's done by joining a team, we joined Denver Summit out of Colorado. If you don't do that, you will go to Under Armour and try out for their select team, and then you do tournaments with them, or you can go to other showcases on your own. Because there's been a couple other D1 recruits from Arizona, and seeing what they've done is they've done the Under Armour, they've done some of the other showcases throughout the United States. So you do have to kind of go outside.
So it sounds like to really get the exposure to those Division I coaches at the girls level, and it's similar to the boys, you need to go to where those coaches are. And primarily that's the East Coast, or it's these go-to showcases like the Under Armours.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just like the boys has the Under Armour, the girls has the same type of thing where you can go try out in different regions and represent and go to that tournament. Same type of thing.
Which is a pretty unique opportunity to represent Arizona, which is one of the, we'll call it an emerging market of lacrosse.
It definitely is emerging, because we've had a couple girls, I think this past year, that have gone D1. I think we have one or two. So it's pretty awesome. And then of course, University of ASU is a D1 for girls here right in Arizona. So that's pretty awesome to have that. For the girls that do want to stay local, we do have a big powerhouse out here.
Yeah, which is my alma mater, so I won't be biased and pushing you all in any direction. Can you, I know there's a lot of families, especially in our Arizona area, they may not be familiar with the NCAA protocols in terms of how they can recruit. And I know that it changes frequently, so much so that I'm not even quite aware of what it is right now. I'd love for you to share with everyone about that.
Well, COVID has put a big unfortunate stop in a lot of the recruiting, because it's been in a literal dead period up until April 1st. So it's really put a damper. So luckily AJ was able to get in before any of that stopped a lot of the recruiting. But without COVID, D1 is not allowed to do any contact with the players until, for lacrosse. Now this is just for lacrosse. Different sports have their own to follow. So for lacrosse, D1 is not allowed to contact until September 1st of the junior year for boys and girls. So that's the same. D2 and D3 is allowed to contact before then. So, so for Ashley, for instance, yes, she's a sophomore now. She has had D1 schools. We know on her, she's a Connect Lax profile, which is used by a lot of recruiters. A lot of colleges use that. And she has a profile from her team, which has all her films, and it has, she'll put clips on it. So there has been some D1 schools that have looked at her stuff. And so she'll email them after they look at it. And then she gets the, sorry, we're not allowed to contact you until September 1st of your junior year. However, if you'd like to come to our camps this summer, please, fill out our recruit questionnaire and stuff like that. So they are allowed to watch her film. They're allowed to look at her profile. They just cannot make any sort of direct contact with her.
That's really interesting. So the coaches, they're not allowed to say anything but sorry, we can't contact you until September 1st. But it seems like it may be a little bit of a game. Everyone's on this. You said it's Connect Lax.
Yeah, so it's CONNECTLAX. Yep, that's a big one that is used by a lot of teams. A lot of schools use it. And so they can search by team, like, so they can just search Summit Lacrosse and then they'll see every Summit Lacrosse player, or they can search by individuals too. And so she'll have on her profile every tournament that she's been to, every tournament that she's going to, and then it has all her entire game films plus any clips that she wants to put out there to highlight certain things. So
now, is Ashley setting all this up on her own? Are you helping her? How does that work in terms of the accountability on her for her own success?
It's on her. So the team gives it to her. It's part of their package that we paid for to be on the team. She gets a free profile through Connect Lax. Anybody can do it if they want to pay for it. So any parent can get their child one if you pay for it for the year. But her team has set this up for them. And the team will put all the film out there and link it to her, but it's up to her to go and edit and do everything that she wants to do to profile herself, and then shoot it to coaches and contact the coaches. That I put on my own kids. It's their dedication to it.
I think ultimately that's what coaches are looking for as well. They don't want to hear Ashley, aka Christine, sending messages because they're looking for responsible kids at the end of the day, kids that ultimately, or young adults that ultimately want to be where they're going. And if you go to a place because your parents told you to go there, you're probably not going to have a good time. Which is very unique. You give her that opportunity and support system. And it sounds like you probably let her know what it takes to get there. It's just on her to do the work.
Yep. And then her coaches have guided her, and they have meetings with her and have told her, this is, they've helped her shape her email to coaches and tell her what to do. And she's emailed, like, once she did her 3 tournaments in the fall, ended with the Ambassadors Cup, she spent literally the next couple weeks, like 10 to 12 emails a day, almost, shooting out to coaches at different levels. Even though she wants D1, she was just trying different levels to see what sort of response that she would get.
Well, that's so cool. Does she have an idea, like AJ, in terms of what type of school or what degree she wants out of school?
Yep, she's going East Coast and she's going for law. So she'll be spending 1 week this summer at George Mason University in the Envision Law program, and she'll get to study law and put a case in front of the Supreme Court and work at the college and do all that. So she'll be spending 1 week in between her 4 lacrosse tournaments putting that together. So that should be fun.
Wow, that's amazing that she has that opportunity, and amazing that it's you and her juggling that. What would you have to share for parents that they want to be supportive of their kid, but maybe they've got other commitments going on? Maybe they're scared to send their child on their own. Are those some of the concerns you had, or maybe could you share some of the concerns you did have and what it took to overcome those concerns?
For us, it was a little easier. We're from the East Coast, so we have my parents back there. So every time that we had to send AJ to go to these tournaments back there, he would stay with my parents for a couple weeks. And like Ashley, she's going to go this summer. We'll fly her one way out there and she'll stay for 5 weeks with my parents, and then we'll pick her up in Indiana. And so she'll fly by herself from Maryland to Indiana, but my kids, we've lived in, I think, 5 or 6 different states and moved all around. So my kids are a little independent and used to traveling by themselves. So like Andrew's even flown on a plane by himself, and he was like 9 years old. So my kids are, pretty used to doing things like this.
I think that's just so amazing. mean, Andrew was probably flying on his own for different reasons, but to think of Ashley and AJ, they've created this life for themselves. They set a goal, they went out and accomplished it, and that's really why, for me, lacrosse was that catalyst for so many of these things. My first time traveling to the East Coast, I was all by myself. I was just with the families there. I was the one who was responsible for talking to the different coaches, trying to figure out what was a good fit, what wasn't. My parents were there to be supportive, but really it was on me. And that has followed me every single part of my life so far. Is whatever I want, I need to be able to create that for myself. And that's what leadership ultimately is for me, is being able to identify what you want or what the group wants, and then empower people, hold people accountable to accomplishing those goals. And Christine, I know you are organizing so many different things right now. I'd love to hear what leadership means to you.
Wow. What does leadership mean to me? Geez, it's a tough question. It means being a good role model. I think for anybody that is under me, and that's what I tried to do when I was working with like the Ahwatukee Ladies Lightning, when I was working with Pete and Holly Opart for years with them. And that was my, I guess the biggest thing when I was trying to be a leader out there was for the girls that are out there, and trying to grow the game and, you know, guide them and give them a foundation to love lacrosse, love the sport, and, you know, and just give them someone to look up to, I guess. And that was, you know, that was it. Just lead them in the right direction and always be there.
I think that's so important to have that experiential leader, the person who's there leading, being the role model, positive influence. And you end up creating so many great, I call them shadows, but they end up doing just what you've done. And that's what has created so many great organizations. And I know the Lady Lightning are strong, and you all with the AZ Xtreme and the Vortex have been able to create something really unique as well. Do you mind sharing with some of the families that maybe aren't aware of the different club programs or what lacrosse is like in Arizona, what it is, especially because we do have people from around the country viewing this? It'd be great to hear your perspective of lacrosse.
Sure. So a couple years ago, when my daughter Amanda first started playing, she's a freshman now, there was only 2 girls teams really out here. It was Desert Heat and it was East Valley Lacrosse, which is Vortex. And so there was Chandler and Scottsdale, and that was it. And so I would have to drive out to the Chandler and do that. So the first year with Amanda, I took her out there and I learned as much as I could under Dan Hill, who is still out there with their program. And I literally was like thrown to the fire out there. I learned how to coach. I learned how to run the program. I learned as much as I could about girls lacrosse so that I could bring it back to Ahwatukee, because at the time we had enough players, but we just had no one that could take the reins and no one that could be willing it. But I had a lot of support from the boys Ahwatukee program, between Bill Lynch and Matt Dale and everybody that was there. They were so supportive of me back there. So I was like, sure. And so Pete Opart jumped on board, and his wife Holly Opart. And so we started the Ahwatukee Ladies Lightning a couple years ago, and their older daughter was involved in their younger daughter. And we started in the fall, and it is going ever since. And so from that, we started a league. And so we had teams up in Cave Creek where Tim Jones is. He had a team up there of girls. And then we had Jessica's team, Desert Heat, joined us, and we had East Valley Lacrosse was joining us, and then Oro Valley and Tucson joined us. So Doug Charters had a team, and Simon and Mary Keller, they had teams down there. And that was our first league that year. So we all got together, and, you know, just kind of everybody, if we didn't have enough players, it was just, let's just have fun and grow the game. And those teams are still going. And so teams have joined and come and gone, and Gilbert was part of that too. So, and it's going ever since. And so from that, different travel teams have then formed from it. So I formed one with AZ Xtreme, and we've had players from Oro Valley join us. We've had players from Cave Creek join us. As I said, we're working with Vortex. Some of my players have played with Heat, and just kind of all just worked together to grow the game over the past year, couple years. So it's been about 4 or 5 years now that the league is still going strong.
Well, I'm glad to hear that the league keeps going strong. I think the more lacrosse that can be here, the better. It obviously takes a lot of people to be able to support
Yep.
the kids, whether it's the coaches, the administration side. It's not something that just one person can do. And I think that's why the idea of the nonprofit being the foundation and can hire the different parts seems to make a lot of sense to me. And we thank you, Christine, for what you've done with the program so far.
Thanks. Yeah, it got so big. Originally, we would play at the same time as the boys on the weekends. And now we've gotten so big that the girls play separately from the boys at their own fields on the weekends. But so it's been really a fun ride. And this is my first year that I've not been involved because both my girls are at high school now.
Well, you've gone ahead and passed on the torch to the next individuals, and that's part of leadership as well, is putting in a process and having it so that it's standardized, or at least someone else could replicate it with or without you.
Yep. And they still have the program going, so it's really good. We have from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade.
Oh my gosh, that's probably my favorite lacrosse moment. Is I just remember in one of the Lax clinics, there's this little like kindergartner or first grader, and he's going to pick up a ball. We're doing sharks and minnows, and I start chasing him, and he's got the biggest, goofiest smile you've ever seen. And just the little guys and gals out there really make this a fun thing to get back to.
Yeah, they are. The kindergartners are cute. And what's been fun for me too is that there's girls that are seniors this year and some juniors, and I remember when they first started with me at Awatuki Lightning, and they picked up their first stick while I was there under the program, and now I see them playing at DV high school on the varsity team, and they're just phenomenal players, and some of them are going off to college next year to play. And it's just, to see the success from where they were first throwing and catching, and I remember them at their first practices. And so that's been kind of really neat to watch the progress of some of the players that started, with the Lightning to begin with and are still going.
Well, that's phenomenal to see, and I'm excited with my own experience to see that. And for me, I can see you light up as well, Christine. So I see how special that is. One thing that I want to make sure we address before the end of time is you already mentioned the Connect Lax. Are there any other resources that these high schoolers should be aware of if they want to play lacrosse at the next level?
Yeah, there's also Captain U is another recruiting place that a couple colleges have used to do profiles. That I think AJ used that for a little bit. There's a free one, and then there's one you can pay for also, depends on what level you want to do. So those are two that have been used. And then there's also the NCSA, but that you have to pay for. So I think there's a free profile that you can set up. And then there's also like the pay level. We've just never really paid for any of the levels. We've set up a lot of the free, that you can do, which is, limited. So it kind of depends on what you want to put into it. As far as getting your recruit, because a lot of the colleges will just ask you to fill out the questionnaires, and we found a lot of the questionnaires linked to Captain U, which is the one website.
Interesting. And I think that's something where families will probably learn as they go through the process what the different schools are requiring, and maybe you build your own process from it based off of what your child is trying to accomplish.
Right. And it depends on, what they're looking for. A lot of them, AJ was just reaching out to the colleges directly, and, then giving them the film. And then a lot of them, when he went to the showcases, they had their own platform to use too. So it kind of just, depend on, where you are going. But Connect Lax and Captain U are two of the ones that we've just seen a lot of. And you can follow them on Instagram. Connect Lax has an Instagram page. And if you're on there and you kind of reach out to them like, and they'll put your stuff on YouTube, and then some of the highlights they'll kind of throw on Instagram sometimes too. So yeah, they'll help promote you on
That's
Connect
pretty
Lab.
cool.
Yeah, so depends on like if I don't know if you get a following. I don't know like the algorithm that they use, whatever. But yeah, on Instagram you'll see some Connect Lax stuff come out there. So
Nice. Well, Christine, thank you so much for all this information. I think for any parents that are trying to help their kid reach the next level, just having your perspective has to be so valuable to see how you're doing it. And everyone's going to have a different experience and different
Yep.
perspective. Is there anything that we can help you with though right now, Christine?
No, that was it. Just thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much for being on.